wife lives in Harlem right now for about a year, so I'm just up, every once in a while. Yeah, visiting.
We might have to repeat this stuff.
Okay, yeah. Well, you just tell me what you want to do.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Right. Welcome back to Doni in the Park. I'm Donnie.
I'm Pat.
Okay, so Pat, where are you from?
So I'm from a small town north of Pittsburgh, PA. I live in Savannah now. I've been there about 10 years, but I'm up in New York frequently because my wife's currently living in the city. So, yeah.
I have friends who live around the Pittsburgh area, but it's a little more quiet though, right?
Yeah, it's chill. It's I grew up like middle of nowhere, basically. We had 30 acres. That was farmed. Like my high school class had like 100 my graduating class.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just a different world.
Did you like that, or you're?
Yes and no. I mean, I appreciate it now. Definitely, it was good. I think it was a good way to grow up. Like it was, pretty chill. But there was, to see my friends wasn't sure. I would ride my bike like we would ride miles. Like I think my closest friend was like 4 miles away. So we would like
Your
ride.
closest friend was 4 miles away.
It was and then we were just like a road biker gang in the summer, just like going all around on our little, just pedaling around. Yeah. It was so you had but Walmart was like 20 minutes. That's where we could drive 20 minutes to go to the groceries. Yeah. But
and I think also probably you had like a very tight-knit community then. Maybe not.
Yeah. I mean, I would say yeah, because you kind of knew everyone. You kind of knew everyone's business. In a lot of ways, like it's.
Someone kisses one person, the whole town goes.
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, it was chill. It was. I enjoyed it.
And were you working with your farm, or if you had one, or
So my parents weren't farmers, but we had land that my dad just let like a neighbor farmer, work like free charge basically. So he would plant a lot of property, just usually feed crops. He had cows, but other stuff like that. So I would help with that occasionally. I was pretty active in sports in school, so like I didn't really have a lot of time during the school year, but in the summers, I was a camp counselor a couple summers, like stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what made you want to leave that to go to like these more city places like Savannah?
Yeah, I mean, I joined the Army. Actually, I went to West Point, just up the river basically from here. Spent 4 years of college there, 6 years in the Army, and then I just kind of moved around. I always enjoyed, as a cadet, like, I was 18 years old coming down to the city for the first time. It was like my first time on a subway. Like, it was just, I was like, holy shit, like this is. Yeah, because I've been to Pittsburgh, right? It's not like I'm like this, like, country bumpkin who's like never, seen technology, right? But like, still, it's huge. I mean, it's just like, this is so so much.
I'm so sorry, I think your phone stopped recording.
Oh, actually?
It says there's like 20% battery, so I don't know.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we gotta get the plug in.
Oh, wait.
I just wanted to make sure you're still.
Okay, I think it is.
You're still in it?
was going?
What?
Do you think it was still going?
Oh, no. I hope so.
I hope it was.
Now
I
it's-
hope so.
We had some good stuff going on.
Yeah, y'all were getting into it over here.
Yeah.
Okay, well, but thank you so much.
yeah,
I appreciate you
get
guys.
back
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we'll see. It said 3 minutes and 30 seconds. That's around the time we can talk to you. So I think
It's your project, man. You do it cool. So.
I think. Wait. So let's go back to the Army thing. So,
Yeah.
So you grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so what made you want to join the Army?
Oh man, so 9/11 happened. I was, third grade, I think, fourth grade. I was young, but I was like old enough to be very impressionable, and that left an impression on me. And of course, growing up in a rural area, technically conservative, right? I mean, that's kind of like how I grew up. And like Toby Keith and like Rah Rah America, like, so like I always, I had that call, but I always just felt called to like service in some way. It just seemed like I was just interested in, doing something good and being part of something like bigger than myself and challenge.
So how was your experience in the Army?
Mostly good. Bad too. So, I mean, it's like as time goes on, you remember things more fondly looking back, right? At least I do. I tend to remember the good more than the bad. met some incredible people. Had some really, you know, really good times. Got to see a lot of different things, experienced a lot of different things. Like at a very young age, I was responsible for, you know, I was an infantry officer, so an infantry officer. Yeah, so I was responsible. I was like 23 years old, and I was responsible for the lives of human beings. Like, can you believe they let a child do that? You know? Yeah. So, and there's a lot of benefits too. I mean, I got free college. Like, I have the GI Bill, so like I can go to grad school mostly free, which is like pretty awesome. Like. You know, there's a lot of advantages to it.
How did you handle that awesome responsibility? Leadership,
I don't even think you really, you know, I don't know if it, I don't know if I really thought about how, you know, just how much it was, but you know, they don't set you up to fail. It's not like they just push you into this thing without, like, I had a lot of training, and I had a lot of people helping me out as well. Like, you know, I might have been at the end of the day, the shot caller as the platoon leader, but I had a platoon sergeant who was a non-commissioned officer, like a sergeant first class, with like, you know, 12 to 15 years experience in the Army, and like, you know, he was kind of in charge too, right? So.
Me and my friend are gonna come back and like find her.
Yeah, sounds great.
You know, and I could always lean on him and like my other squad leader. So it's like, you know, you're not doing it alone. And so you believe you can do it, so get, yeah.
Wow. And you see a lot of action?
No, I didn't. I was fortunate. So I got in, you know, I got to West Point in 2009. Things were still hot then. By the time I graduated, like, there wasn't quite as much going on. I mean, there's still, like, I have friends who saw combat, maybe have friends, you know, that are great, and, but it was not to the extent that it was before. So it's something at the time I was upset about, to be frank, because that's an experience that I wanted. And now looking back, I'm, you know, very fortunate that I didn't have to do it.
What do you think? What part of that experience were you yearning for?
I think it was just sort of a proving myself thing. Like, can I do this? You know, I mean, it's like the ultimate, you know, test, I guess, of one's abilities, right? And, you know, it's, and I always liken it to, like, imagine if you went to football practice every day for 4 years and you never played a game. You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, that was the main thing. And then I'm also, you know, leading these people who've been there and had that experience and I haven't. And so, you know, you almost feel like they'll never quite be accepted until you do.
And do you still like agree with those yearnings, or do you feel as time shifted with
No. I mean, I think it's a foolish thing to want to do. You know what I mean? I understand why. You know, you want to. You know, since the beginning of time, right? That's how in a lot of societies, how man has kind of proved himself, right? Like, and our society's not the only one, but you know, I think that's kind of like the young man's like desire.
Now it's shifting away from as you go to the station. How do you shift that perspective of
So, I used to be a very much like setting and achieving goals was like how I fulfilled myself, I guess, right? So I really tied my sense of self-worth and happiness to the goal. Yeah, right? It was like, I want to, you know, I want to run a 5K this fast, I want to get into West Point, I want to go to Ranger School, I want to, you know, be a platoon leader in the infantry. I want to start a small business and grow it. And so, you know, and I did these things. And, you know, I realized kind of along the way that if you tie your sense of self-worth and your satisfaction to achieving goals, you'll realize that there's always a taller mountain to climb, right? And so you'll never really be happy as long as that's what because you'll just, you know, all right, I did that, what's next? So what I've learned, you know, recently is how to appreciate the process. right? It's not the goal. It's like the getting up every day and just like doing. And so you can find a way to enjoy that.
What ways in your life has that manifested?
Like that change. So I picked that up last summer. I walked across the country. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So and there's a caveat there. So if you heard the Pacific Crest Trail, or the Appalachian Trail,
Yeah.
okay. So the AT and then there's the Pacific Crest Trail that's on the West Coast. It's like the same idea. It's a really long foot trail, and it goes from Mexico to Canada to like through California, Oregon, Washington, like basically the Sierra Nevada mountains and then the Cascade Mountains. And the caveat is I missed some miles because of some wildfires and some injuries, but I got 2,000 miles total.
Yeah, I'm like 2,000 miles versus
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah, so yeah, I gotta, we gotta have the asterisks there. If there's a purist out there who watches this, it's
I got to speak good about
yeah. So, but fuck, it's a long fucking way. So I decided to do that because I was just kind of burnt out with like, I've been running as well as this for years, and it was just burning me out. And it wasn't satisfying, and I felt like I kind of missed the physical challenge of the Army, and I was like, I think there's something about it. Something about this, and I always like back home, right? So it's just like a perfect little break to take. And when I started it, it was very much wrapped up in the goal of like completing the whole thing. Right? Like that was like, I was like, when I do this, it's not gonna matter for shit, right? And what happened was I started, and 6 days later, I threw out my bag. So I herniated a disc. Like 6 days into this trail, I was like 70 miles into it, 74 miles. And it turns out I'd had back problems for years since the Army, and it was never properly diagnosed. They just said that I had arthritis, basically, which was not the case. I had disc problems. And anyway, I threw it out, and I was packing up my tent. I was not doing it.
That's the worst. It wasn't even like you were like fighting this climb.
No, it was just, it was just like, and so I had to walk a couple miles to get to the road, and then I hitchhiked into town, like just, climb out, somebody come pick me up.
Good old days.
So like and I ended up, I tried to get back on the trail a couple days later. It was too soon. I flew home. I got an MRI. I took 5 weeks off, and I wasn't able to see a doctor in that time. But once I figured out what was actually wrong, I read some books on how to manage like a disc problem, basically. And it all comes down to posture and like core stability and like some other stuff. But And I did see a physical therapist who specializes in like athletes, and I got back on the trail 5 weeks later, and I did 2,000 more miles after that. It was a little rough at first, but this physical therapist gave me some advice when I was like 100 miles into being back on the trail, and I was having some issues, and I was just like, fuck, I don't know if I can do this. And she was like, look, like you gotta not worry about finishing this thing. Like, just don't worry about it. Like, chances are you won't. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, just see what you can do. Just get out there every day and just see how you feel. And basically, I guess she kind of helped me to give myself permission to, not finish it. Basically, so I set a smaller goal, and I was like, hey, I just want to go a little bit more. We'll see what's up. And I started cobbling that together, and I started feeling better. And then eventually. Probably it took about a month and a half. I decided that I just quit whenever I wasn't having fun anymore. And I stopped thinking. I was just literally living day by day. Like I wasn't thinking about, the only future planning I was doing was like, I had to know I had enough water to get to the next water source and enough food to get to the next time. And that's basically all I cared about to do.
That was a huge period.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge for me. Because I've always been like, I've got to, have what I want to be in 3 years, and I got to back goals off of that, and I got to, and like that's important, and there's a good reason to do that. But I think also, when you do that, you just get wrapped up in these things that you're not enjoying what's happening today. So I've kind of revised that. You got to still kind of know where you want to go, otherwise your efforts aren't going to be focused. But recognizing that you're not going to know what the whole path looks like. So you only really know what the path looks like a couple steps ahead. So just kind of do what you know you need to do and trust that the rest will find a way to work out as long as you keep walking. Yeah.
I guess now, ironically, even though you don't like really know, a lot of those people, when you think about like what your legacy
Yeah, and then like in general.
and have like some general sense, do you have an idea of what you want that to be?
I mean, in a general sense, I don't think I have a specific sense. I think in a general sense, I think it's important to see things better in whatever way that is. I've been reading a lot of philosophy and stuff, which you said you're interested in, and I really like the Buddhist philosophy of like, there's a lot of suffering in the world, and suffering in a lot of ways is what causes people to do something bad, right? Because they suffer, and so they project that suffering on you, and you can either take that suffering and amplify it and put it back down, or you can try to like transform it, right, and put something good out instead, right? And that takes a little bit of sometimes swallowing your pride, and sometimes it can take a lot of effort. It takes a lot of I got to have time to introspect for 12 hours a day, every day, for 5 months straight. So like I thought about a lot of stuff, and so I think in a very general sense, that's what I want to try to do. Specifically, I don't know, man. I don't really know. I don't have a specific.
It would be pretty impressive if you do.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm still kind of, I guess I'm still kind of taking some me time. I've kind of decided that I like to spend the next. I'm 34 now, so one of the things I've become aware of is that my own body does not have unlimited miles on it, right? And that becomes more apparent the older you get. And so I'm kind of focusing myself on physical tasks, while I still can. So I'd like to do another one of these long trails. I'd like to complete some ultra marathons, and just really focus on that. I'm just kind of working enough in my business just to pay the bills and keep everybody happy. But I'm spending. I joke with my friends. I'm calling myself a professional athlete because I'm sponsoring myself, right? So
I love that. Yeah,
that's they hate my stupid jokes. I guess, but that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And then at some point I'll do something else.
And when you mentioned that Buddhist idea, is there also a larger sense of you like a more spiritual empowerment you feel is like causing you to do stuff, or is that not so much of spirituality?
I don't know. I mean, maybe I went through I was raised Catholic, and of course that's similar to what that idea. Like Jesus said some things like that as well, like turn the other cheek, right? I don't know how familiar you are with any of that, but and then they also teach. It's similar. There's some specific quotes. I don't remember all of it, but so I think it's not like that idea. It's not like I first picked up that idea reading Buddhist stuff, right? Like there's others who talk about this. I was not really. I wouldn't consider myself Christian anymore in like the sense that. There is some spirituality though. I think there's I don't know exactly what I believe, but there's the way that everything's connected, and the way that the more you think about what is happening in your life and others, you really begin to realize that everything you do has a reaction. And it will spread out in ways that you couldn't understand. So it seems that things are connected in a way that in people and in animals. Is there a communal consciousness kind of thing? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot we don't know. But it's I certainly felt you ever felt like a shiver down your spine, kind of spiritual. Almost every day on the trail, right? And it just, is it just gratitude? Is it something? I don't know, But I do feel that there's, there's feelings inside of us that can't put into words, but they kind of push you into doing a certain thing. And you can't really explain why, right? And a lot of people look at that as being like a will of God or something like that. I don't know, maybe it's just the way that the things that have happened in your life and the people that you've met and interacted with influence you in ways that you don't understand.
Tom Russell, right? The blank canvas.
I'm not familiar with that.
Oh, it's like the idea that like we all kind of start off as a blank canvas, and like the way we react to things. It's called it's deterministic, more deterministic mindset.
Yeah.
It's like so much of it is a result and a consequence of all the different experiences that we have.
I would agree with that. I actually thought a lot about free will when I was out on the trail, and I don't really believe in our day-to-day there's a whole lot of free will. Like when I decided to come talk to you, like I don't, like I actually ran by and I was like, I'll talk to that guy, and I came back. Is that did I have a choice there? I don't know, but I think what we do have a choice in is like our long-term habits, and that just involves like tiny little things that you do every day, and the way that you train yourself to react to something is how you're going to react, right? And when you're confronted with a situation,
It reminds me of so I go to a Jewish medium school in high school in New York, and we have a Jewish philosophy class junior year, and it reminds me very similar to this rabbi. His name is Rabbi Dessler from like centuries back, and he talks about the idea of how you have free choice points. You have choice points. So in your day-to-day life, you don't have free will, right? Just like you saw me do a pass, like, I'll sit down with you. That wasn't free will. You decide to drink that cup of water, that's not free will. You have larger things in life, right? It could be the decision, I'm gonna go on this trail. It could be the decision, I'm gonna start working out now. I'm gonna go to work. It even just be the decision, like, I'm gonna stop speaking this type of way. And for some people, it's like shared, like a national one, but for most people, just subjective moments of it. And so those are your choice points.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's not.
I like that. I think, and I think my decision to come around and talk to you, I think, it was something that I've been doing more recently. I call it side questing, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm going to see something that looks interesting. Maybe that's not what I plan to do today, but like I'm just going to go do it and see what happens. And so the more you do that, the more you're going to do it in the future. Because it becomes who you are. But this also, goes with like how we associate ourselves with, right? And we decide we're going to associate ourselves with those people we associate with. They're going to leave an impact on us, and that's going to affect, I think the Buddhists would call it like there's a store consciousness, right? Like, every trait that there is that exists is in your store consciousness. It's within you. And other people can water the seeds that will cause that to grow, or you can decide to water those seeds yourself. And once they're grown, they're going to influence your decisions often without you even noticing it.
So you have the free will to decide which one to start, decide which friends to help influence that.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's a limit to your free will because once you make a decision, then it's kind of in some ways, in the experiences around you, it's very hard.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's like also this is like more like a personal thing.
Yeah.
So before college, I'm taking a gap year to go to a religious seminary in Israel. And now I'm thinking maybe more after college but I really am interested in I really feel drawn to do army service in Israel, especially with everything going on there. And I have a bunch of friends who joined the army, and then friends from Israel, friends from America who joined the army, have to be there for gap year. And I resonate a lot what you said. It's like, on the one hand, you have to be aware of how much of it is it's a little bit the glory of the soldier. But also there is a part of us which is we want to be part of something bigger.
Yeah.
We want to power it.
I would definitely, I would definitely think about that. Just take some time and think about why do I what are the things that may have influenced me to feel this way? And that's really hard to do because you just don't have the experience. The decisions I made when I was your age, I'm almost twice as old as I was. I've lived a lot in the interim time, and one of the things that, through my service in the Army is I believe a lot of things. I think I described it. I was like a Toby Keith patriot, right? And I had this vision of America and what America was doing that I believed, and I believed that I was going to contribute to, and I believed that ultimately I was going to be performing a service for my people. And it turns out that wasn't really the case, right? And I realized that in a lot of ways that I've been lied to, and we've been lied to, and a lot of things we were doing were not. They've been well intentioned. I think there's a lot of people who intended to do good things, but they just didn't carefully consider a lot of aspects of those conflicts. And it ended up, I view it all as a terrible waste. What happened in Afghanistan and Iraq, I think it was just, we were worse off, I think, for being involved in those two places. And there are, of course, a lot. Well, I mean, it depends on if you like Saddam or not, right? I don't want to get into all the politics, but I would say generally most people are worse off at this point. We live in those countries, a lot of people involved, and it's just like a lot of American soldiers I know. I know a lot of people who died deaths of despair after coming back because they did these things, and their friends died and they were injured, and they gave up the best years of their life for something that they realized too was just not fucking worth it, and it was kind of a lie. And so I'm not going to comment on any. I don't want to comment on the politics of all that stuff, and that's your decision making. So just think. I would encourage you to.
Man, it was really a pleasure talking.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. I feel like I want to be with my friend now. It's like more than, you know what I mean? That was so cool. Okay. Hey, thank God.